I remember being at Monsters where they would have Q&A panels, and 8 out of 10 choreographers would be like, YouTube is the devil. YouTube will end our society in dance. Yeah.
Wow.
For real. And I'm sitting there like, whoops. Like, pretty much my whole thing.
Yikes.
Hey, the Steezy podcast is brought to you by us, Steezy Studio, the #1 dance app on the App Store and Google Play Store with over 1 million downloads. We provide curated online dance classes taught by the world's best instructors. Why did we create Steezy? To help you reach your dance goals one step at a time. Whether that goal is to perform with the biggest and best musical artists in the world, or just be the life of the party at your cousin's wedding. I'm your host, Clay Boone Tanaka. Let's get to it.
Hi, Ian. We back in here. All right, we're gonna pick back up. If you haven't listened to part 1 of this podcast, you can go back an episode.
It's before part 2.
It's before. It's the one that happens previously, pre-2, and
that's what we're titling episode 1.
Pre-2.
It's the prequel to part 2.
It's the prequel of part 2. Yes.
I love it.
So in our first episode, we talked a lot about your journey in music. We talked about Young Lions, the sort of the innovations around there, and how that really cultivated your growth, as well as a lot of the Chicago dance scene. Yeah. And man, so much more. But now we're going to get into more dancey stuff.
Love it. Right? Nerd time.
So, okay, one thing that is really nerve-wracking for a lot of people is when they get a dance gig. Because there's not a rule book, a guidebook on how to do that.
Yeah.
I'm really curious because was your first dance gig the Black Eyed Peas experience?
Yeah.
There's a video game, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about when you got that.
Yeah.
Before, during, and after.
Yeah, totally. That's a great story. That's like that's like the definition of my career moving forward in LA after that.
Okay. When was this?
So this is gonna be 2011. This is the year that I graduated high school.
Okay.
I just moved to LA, and then I had done my world tour for the first time, so like by myself, because one of my parents would come with me when I was going overseas, 16 to 18 years old.
Okay.
So 18, I do my first whole summer by myself. I do 9 dance camps, 7 countries, 2 of them twice, or 3 of them twice.
It's like exhausting.
54 classes in like 50 days.
How was your body?
It was really bad at the end. Fair Play was my first year doing Fair Play. By the time I got to Fair Play
Dance Camp,
I taught, I think, probably 4 or 5 classes with pink eye, both eyes.
Both?
Yes.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Because I thought I was in Sweden. I remember I saw this dude who had pink eye, and it was all the dap ups. And I just didn't think anything of it. And a day later, they tell me it's crazy there's crazy pollen and stuff in Sweden. And I'm like itching my eye because I'm like, I got pollen allergies. And I infect both eyes.
Oh, no.
Crazy. And then I was in Germany at UDC after that. And then
Urban Dance Camp, yeah.
And it's like, it's free Medicare or whatever, but it's like they got old shit, so it's like they're giving me an eye cream instead of eye drops. And I'm like, bro, this is not
Greek yogurt
going to work. I'm like, I have to be in front of people, bro.
Yeah.
Like, so I just suffered through it and like literally just like kept to myself and didn't, whatever. But it was, I was spent at the end. I got sick. Like there was no way. It was all bad. So, but it was an amazing first time ever, like being on my own and like, traveling around. So I had all that under my belt and all that momentum under me and independence and all that stuff. And, I'm paying for my own apartment. I'm going to college on my own. I'm like, I have this whole plan.
Yeah.
And from the moment I started choreographing and dancing and going to Monsters, I decided I'm going to move to LA to pursue choreography.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. And so I get out there and like now I've already had some unexpected success with traveling and teaching.
Yes.
Because the whole traveling and teaching YouTube thing was something that didn't exist from 10 to 16 years old at all to even be a goal. Mm-hmm. So I'm like living a goal that's becoming my goal in real time. Mm-hmm. That, you know, so you can't be particularly overtly excited about something. You're like, I don't know what this is. This could end tomorrow.
Yeah, really, nowadays people are like international choreographer.
That was not a thing.
That's what I want.
No, not a thing at all. It was like, how can I do this so I can pay rent so I can be a professional choreographer in LA? And that was kind of my plan.
Okay.
And definitely at the time, like the fact that you were teaching anywhere and put videos up on YouTube immediately discredited you in the commercial world.
Oh, really?
100% a thing.
I didn't know that.
You're a YouTube choreographer.
Like
how we talk about
you're
TikTokers.
a TikTok dancer.
100%, exactly.
I'm a
like
TikTok
that.
dancer.
Yeah. I dance on TikTok, bro.
I dance on TikTok.
Yeah, no, literally. So like, even my training grounds where I grew up, and I credit most of my training, I remember being at Monsters where they would have Q&A panels and 8 out of 10 choreographers would be like, YouTube is the devil, YouTube will end our society in dance. Yeah.
Wow.
For real. And I'm sitting there like, whoops, like pretty much my whole thing. Yikes. Pretty much the whole thing I do, like... you know, and so when I moved out here, I already knew I was fighting that reputation.
Wow.
And not being taken seriously, for sure. And then my agent at the time was even telling me quite literally that I needed to not take up getting booked on gigs because I needed to stay in town tentatively for non-existent auditions that might come up.
Is it like paying your dues? Is that like...
That was exact quote that was told to me. And I was like, I get it, but what you're saying in reality is that I need to forfeit guaranteed pay based on my own merit and value and likeness for maybe dancer pay for a gig that might not even literally exist at all. Like they were saying that I should stay back even if there isn't an audition during that time in case one pops up, because that's the biz. And that's LA. And I'm like, I don't know if that's gonna work for me, you know? Hey. Especially because they didn't get, like I was so far at the front of something, the agencies were dismissing the earning potential that I had and reality that I had.
I mean, you're the only 18-year-old, 16-year-old, 18-year-old kid making money around the world.
Totally.
They're like,
this is not a thing. This is just like a side. Yeah, totally. They're like, this is just a side thing. Because Marty and those guys were doing it, which was probably their side cash, but it was like, well, their main thing is doing the VMAs.
Exactly.
And it's like,
that's a big difference.
Their side hustle is our whole hustle.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it's like, if I'm going to sit here in LA and get told it's never going to happen, it's never going to happen, it's never going to happen, it's like, well, why don't I just go where I'm getting respected and like people rock with me?
Yeah.
You know? So I was really discouraged from a couple meetings with my agent. And basically because I said I want to be a choreographer. And my agent was like, you're going to have to pay your dues. Ha, ha, ha. Never going to happen. And I was like, I feel like you laughing at me is not the vibe of who I wanted to be represented by.
This is kind of like Aday's story.
Yes.
Ade had a very similar story.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, it's LA.
Yep.
Shout out LA.
Shout out LA.
So yeah, it was like super discouraging. And I got this gig. And because at that point I was like, I don't know if I'm going to really go do these auditions because I don't know if I want to commit to being a tour dancer when people already look at me as a choreographer. So I was like, in that case, I'm gonna basically avoid those bigger cattle call auditions. And unless you guys really have something that I could just plug in that's like the type of things that are like castings, where it's like show up, dance for 30 seconds, see you later.
Really quick, what is a cattle call casting?
Yeah, cattle call is like everyone and their mom gets invited to audition for the new Justin Bieber tour or the new Janet Jackson tour. And it's like you will obviously get a call from your agent, but also it's an open call.
Yeah.
So it's like
you can't even get in sometimes.
In LA can just like put on some sneakers and show up.
And what you wanted was?
What I wanted was basically like I was putting it like, okay, maybe I'm not going to choreograph for Chris Brown tomorrow, but I also know that there's up and coming artists that are seeking choreography.
Yeah.
And there's probably some of them that are even watching my videos. And they just couldn't even understand. Like that was just that was just like their brain just exploded on impact of me saying stuff like that. Like it was just like, no.
Yeah,
like,
you don't get it.
Yeah, 100% that. 100% that. And so I'd only agreed to do basically, the casting style auditions where it's like, I get that I'm getting called in based off of a headshot.
Sure.
And it doesn't really matter how well I dance.
Yeah.
But at least it's not my whole day or 2 days or 3 days for something I know I'm not going to do.
No.
You know? Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm cool to go in for castings. And I did this casting, and then it was for Black Eyed Peas Experience. And I was like, sick. Like I'm in LA 1 month, got my first audition while I was still sleeping on the carpet, didn't have a bed yet. And I was like, this is sick. And so I go to the audition and I get it. And then I go to the first rehearsal, and I was super unfamiliar with how rehearsals work and just how all of that, because I'm from the community.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I don't know, a couple hours on a Friday. Like,
that's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, these are like full work days.
Yeah, exactly. It's 8 hours. Well, because it's like, usually 8 hour rehearsal days is what you get paid for. It's like it's probably more now, but it was like $250 for a rehearsal day, like for Dancers Alliance rates, and then whatever, 500 or 700 or something like that for a shoot day.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand the process of like, you got to hit the 8 hour mark, or in theory, you're kind of like lowballing, and you're kind of like screwing over the production in a sense.
I see.
Right? Because they're like, we want to know there's a full rehearsal day. I don't know, it's so old school.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So basically, I got put onto the fact that a lot of times, maybe not as much anymore, but a lot of times for choreographers, those are run out the clock situations. Oh. Do you get what I'm saying? So something that could be done in quite literally 20 minutes or maybe on set, because you have professional dancer, they just drag it for 8 hours.
Or they don't show up.
Or sometimes choreographers, and this is something choreographers definitely still do today, which I guess there isn't anything wrong with, and I did this for a while, which is choreograph what you need to do on the spot.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair for, like, let's say you're doing a tour and you're the head choreographer, and it's like, we're rehearsing for 2 months.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe have 4 or 5 numbers that you do make up on the spot in rehearsals. It's like, what are we going to do 8 hours a day for 2 months?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that makes sense. But like juicing the production, you know what I'm saying? Is something I learned about. And so I step in and I'm like doing dude, it's a dance video game. It's like, 2-step.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, all right, we're done. Like 30 minutes in, I'm like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
And then the assistant just kept dragging it. And I'm like, so like, when are we, like, is it like we did a bunch of breaks? I'm like, what do we got breaks for? Like, are we tired or like, what? I'm so lost. And everybody else is a working dancer in LA.
That's just the norm.
So they're just all comfortable, and I'm just like, I don't know what's happening right now. You know? And also everybody's doing this like very like pretend thing. You know,
what do you mean?
Where they're
pretend thing?
Pretending that they're challenged by the material. Like, and when you do this, like, is it your and I'm just like, bro, it's 2-step. Like,
how many?
Bro. Yeah, exactly. And like, what count? Like, whoa, what? Like, you know,
That's so uncomfortable.
Totally. And it's just funny because nowadays I've done actually a couple of these for Nintendo Switch, and I know the director, and he just has me come in on the day. And actually, some of them I should be coming in early because sometimes it's been like not with dancers and with influencers or something. And it would be maybe nice to have a rehearsal day where I'm like, hey, have you ever done anything involving dance before? Like, you know, maybe, you know, but it can be done because I'm a professional choreographer. It's like, let's just make it happen. And so this is so crazy that this happened this way. And so about 4 hours go by, which is a long time.
It's a lot of two-stepping. It's a lot.
And for me, that's a long time. 4 hours is a long time. And so then the choreographer comes in and they're wearing their shades.
Wait, then the choreographer comes in?
Yes. Then the choreographer comes in. 4 hours.
What was
4 hours.
before that?
Just the assistant.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to LA part 2.
All right.
I'm like learning all this the same way you guys are learning all this. And at 18, I'm like, okay. So and I kept going. Where's the choreographer? Where's the choreographer? Oh, they're coming. Okay. So choreographer shows up wearing their shades and goes to the front of the room and sits against the mirrors and has the assistant come over. And then for the rest of the entire rehearsal, the choreographer never addressed any of the dancers directly and only talked to the assistant. And we're like the distance, like this distance.
Oh, that's so not hot. Oh my God.
Like super 2000s, bro. Like just like the epitome of like, it was just LA. And like everything I thought LA would be, it was like just happening exactly in front of my face in real time. And I was just like, I don't know if this is my vibe, you know? And then again, everybody like boosted the sucking up like exponential. Then it was like, and oh my God, I just couldn't, bro. I don't even have to say anything. You can just tell, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just couldn't take it. And I just saw all these people just like pretending like they're dance impaired for the sake of this like choreographer's ego. And I was just like, I don't know what is happening right now, man. You know? Because I'm also looking at it like, because I grew up in the community, it's all about the community. Yeah. And us like talking to each other, meeting each other.
Yeah, at least pound it.
Yeah, like, you know, saying what's up. Like, or just then even being from a neighborhood, it's just like, bro, like say hello to people. Like say hello. Like,
everyone wants to be in that position. Yeah. Everyone there wants to roll up in shades and not talk to people too, so.
Yeah, like, and I just felt like about how I just like kept sitting there in shock and disbelief and just being grounded in like, I'm not about to pretend. Like, that's my vibe. That's like, because I imagine how my parents would react if they were in the room to seeing me act that way.
Yeah.
And it's just like, where I'm from, it's just like, just don't be a prick. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just talk to people. Yeah. Like that's how you it's collaboration. It's like, that's how you get things done. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You stay in people's good graces and it comes around very often. Mm-hmm. And I was just so disheveled by that. I just like was so thrown off and had such a bad taste in my mouth. I was just like, especially because I saw how comfortable all the dancers were signing up to be in that environment. I just was like, I don't think this is for me, really, you know? And honestly, the shoot day was fine. You know, this choreographer is a massive choreographer. They've done amazing things, huge things. So they handled all of the like in-betweens of like how to deal with producers, how to deal with directors, all the things that I probably didn't see or have any understanding of at that time. Yeah. I'm sure that they handled like incredibly. But yeah, like as far as I felt as a dancer, I basically vowed at that moment, I was like, whenever I get in that position, that's not about to be my vibe at all. I'm going to totally switch that up as far as my experiences go and what I want my dancers to feel like when they've actually gotten a gig. Because by the way, that gig is a one-time thing. Like, it's not going to pay everybody's bills for an extended period of time. So I felt that choreographers acting that way in general was such a backwards approach to helping uplift other dancers in a thing that's already so difficult to monetize. And like, to then be like, felt like you're less than someone within your own camp. Like, in theory, the choreographer is really supposed to protect you as dancers on a gig, because it's the choreographer should be standing there going like, hey, that dancer is not a stunt double. Or, hey, that dancer is getting an extras rate right now and they're doing choreography now. They need to be paid as that's kind of like the choreographer's due diligence on set.
But I think a lot of it you said, they should be defending, they should be the one championing them. But a lot of times a lot of people end up projecting what they experience throughout their life.
100%.
Right? So like they had to go through all that. Their choreographer was that way too.
They were 2 generations before me. The way I'm coming to set saying, oh, it's this, it's that. It's like, well, they never had that experience.
Yeah. They weren't hanging
on
out
their own
with choreographers in their basement.
Exactly. And just like coming together and doing cool high level dance in another country. Like, wasn't happening.
Nah. So it's definitely worlds apart. And that's not necessarily the industry everywhere you go and every time. Right? That's a really big thing to note.
Totally.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever understand that mindset of like, because I had to suffer through this, everyone, like, that's the way to make it. Or I don't know if it's like,
it's just not my vibe.
Same. I'm too soft. I can't do that.
Agreed. And I basically approached a lot of my dance career in that space of like, while I can respect the results that a lot of these types of choreographers and drill sergeants do yield and pull out of people, that I am one to completely crack under that pressure. So I want to encourage people that feel like me, that maybe that isn't the way they have to do it, and they can carve out their own path, that they feel safe, uplifted, encouraged in their less confident moments. And I want to create and curate that space, if anything, because I'm going to be the one that's honest about the dance world of that. It's so hard to get to the point where you can monetize at all. I'm not going to be one to tear you down in the space where we're barely able to get our foot through the door in the first place. Like, if anything, we need to be coming as a unified front to the entire production, artist, label. We need to have our stuff together so that people can actually understand what our worth is. Because the moment we then start slamming people down, and then it's like, this person said this, and then it's just like, how are we ever gonna ascend this thing?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I do produce things as a producer on music videos and whatever, and quite frankly, I really do understand why music videos or artists look at dancers as a line item that they just can't afford.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm making a $15,000 to $20,000 music video, which very often is all labels are willing to pay these days, between camera and location, I'm at 10 grand. So I still got wardrobe, I still got makeup, I still got crafty, I still got meals for the day, myself, and all the 6 jobs I'm doing that I'm getting one paycheck for because I can't afford to hire the rest of the people.
Yep.
How am I going to afford to, well, I'm a dancer, I'm not going to lowball my dancers. Then I'm telling the act, well, I can only get 2 dancers for this budget. Then they're looking at it like, well, what do I need 2 dancers for? Unless it's a dance video.
Yeah.
And then it gets into this whole thing. It's like, I can't, even at the lowest rate, convince people sometimes that it's worth it to book us, because the moment you start going volume and paying okay, I want a dance breakdown at the end. I want 10 dancers. I'm like, do you really want 10 dancers?
You gotta really want that.
because I'm not going to be the choreographer to lowball these dancers. But then I'll find unique ways to try and get dancers where it's like, okay, I'll get quote unquote for freestyle or street dancers that I, as a dancer and choreographer, will pay them for a full shoot day, but I know I'm only going to have them do one round.
Yeah.
Unlike a director that might not know, and so they're having them do 20 rounds. Oh yeah,
just keep doing it like they do with other talent.
It's like, I know that they're going to value that at like, shoot, okay, come to an Ian Eastwood set, dance one time, $500 or $650 or whatever the going rate is. All right, I'll come through and do that.
It's like half of a day. Round two, that's great. Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, I'll try and piecemeal it so it's worth it for the dancers, worth it for whatever. And then certain things, like if I'm producing the video, I'll do something like, I'm gonna pay dancers rates for rehearsals, but it's gonna go per rehearsals. And no one on production or anything needs to know how long these rehearsals are. I know I need 2 rehearsals. I don't need to explain to you why I need 2 hours this day and 4 hours this day. We don't need to hit 8 hours for no reason, just to waste time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because then I also know, if this dancer's only making $750 off this video or $1,000 off this video, how am I gonna take them away from their day job?
Yeah.
For an 8-hour rehearsal where they're wasting their time? It's like, it just becomes so difficult.
Yeah.
You know? And so I always want to be that person in the dance community, to my best ability, per the opportunities in front of me, to disperse the funds in a way that I feel like is fair and in line with the work. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because I've done all aspects of it too, and I'm like, I get what it's like to just need work. So it's like, maybe my value is more than that, but like, I need this job right now.
Man, it's such a, it's so cool that you did experience such difficulties early on so that you can reflect those
100%
in your later jobs and opportunities. And I just think one of my favorite things I've been hearing from you is that I think one of your greatest skills.
Ooh, let me know.
I'd love to hear this.
He said, "Tell me more."
It's being very handsome. No, it's
how do you do it?
That too, but it's fact check. Agreed. There you go. It's, you are a curator in all senses, and I think a lot of that feels like it was picked up from your parents.
Definitely.
And it's not curation of the highest forms.
Yeah.
Because the coolest thing about your curation is that it involves hospitality and it involves people on a more grounded level. It's taking leaps, but not because you're like, ooh, this is a risk I'm willing to take, but it's because you really love people.
Yeah.
And
totally,
man, like I can see that because your parents are those people. Like, like from what I know, always hospitable.
Yes.
Always. I mean, even though it was beneficial to you to bring people over.
Half the dance community has slept over at my childhood home.
I'll be there soon. I've yet to do it. So.
Like slept over, like sleep over. Yeah. Like, come on, bro.
And I love that. And here you are. You've moved into a phase of being a director, being a producer, choreographer, whatever you need to be. But you're always trying to champion people in the way that you wanted to be championed. And I think that is curation of the highest form. You're not picking and placing. You are navigating that journey. You're making sure that it's not that this person is in this right place. It's that everything leading up to that is honoring.
Yeah, totally.
I really respect that, Ian.
That means a lot to me, bro. Because I feel that the reason I do that is because I'm a particularly sensitive person. I'm super
certified sensitive boys club.
Sensitive boys club.
Me too.
I'm very sensitive and I take a lot of stuff to heart, and like I've had a long history of that in my life, and I always just think about it of like, I never thought that I'd be in the position to actually influence people. So now that I am, because I'm such a big fan of like so many things, I think about how much the very small moments that people I've looked up to have taken to entertain me basically, and like just give me some of their time, and how much it catapulted me in the course of my whole life.
Yeah.
Sometimes very small moments.
Yeah.
You know, and small things that gave me so much validation that I seek opportunities to do the same. And maybe even in ways that I have searched for, hoping that someone would do for me. But it's hard to go out of your way for something that might not pay off or whatever. Or if you're just really focused on your path.
Yeah.
It's really hard to think like, oh, this random kid that's messaging me today, if I say something to them, encouraging them, they could be the next me 10 years from now.
That is such a wild thing that like I feel so blessed to have experienced, right? Like just randomly like responding to a person. They're like, I made it onto my dream team because you answered me and it gave me the encouragement I needed.
Think about that.
That's, and I get it. We can't always give. We need to reserve we need our space and set boundaries. But when you can honor others, it's such a special moment.
And it's really just time. You're spending your time.
Yeah.
You know, and time is money, obviously, but also it's like that value of that time could be vastly different proportionally to each party. So my 30 seconds here could like shift the course of someone's whole life.
It's true.
You know, and I've felt that way many times from receiving time of other people, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like little things like Wiggles is still my mentor right now, but I remember feeling and can see with my brain's eye the moments where I'm 11, 12 years old and the rest of the class left for a lunch break in the kids' room and I hung back and Wiggs just chilled with me and taught me the backslide on my knees. Or he was autographing everybody's hoodie and he would just do his quick throw up tag, Wiggs, on theirs. But he took my hoodie and he got a Sharpie out and he went to the side and he spent 15 minutes doing a tag across the whole bottom of the hood.
Sheesh.
And talked to me the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm 29 now. And I remember it from being 12.
Enamored.
And just thinking like, this is special.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that impacts me today. And I still talk to him today, you know?
Yeah.
And now there's kids that are 21, 22 that were 10 when I was teaching them.
Yeah.
And now they're an adult. Like, I don't know if I told you, because we've done like a bunch of just different stuff and content. I don't know if I told you there was this one moment I was at the studio and Sean Liu, Josh Price, and Julian de Guzman get in Sean Liu's car and are backing out of my driveway. And I'm like, what is happening, bro? I'm like, what is going on? Like, I have exact moment memories that feel like yesterday where Sean Liu's got the chubby cheeks.
I know.
And
I went to Delos with him. He was this as tall as my hip.
The custom gold outfit that his mom made him. He was coming through with the custom fit. And then Josh Price, happy as a clam. Also like almost didn't care about dance and was just hyped to be a kid with all the other kids. And then he's like the ultimate dance nerd now.
Yeah.
And like just seeing like their whole thing, you know, and then just seeing them stay together and it be 10 years. And then I'm like looking at them in the car, leaving my driveway. I'm like, this is crazy, bro, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like moments like that, like blow your mind.
Well, how about let's try to blow some minds right now.
Yeah.
Some people might be a little nervy to reach out.
Yeah.
Why don't we give some practicals?
Yeah.
Let's see what are some practical things that a person who wants to become a professional dancer of some type, you can be specific about a certain course. What is something they can put into motion starting now in order to build momentum on that track? So by professional dancer, I am referring to a person who can get paid through their dancing. That's it.
The main question, because that forks off into two things.
Okay.
Professional dancer, like work for hire gun,
Okay.
or based off of their own
choreography,
like their own IP of their
I see.
Like face, merit, likeness.
I'm going to say that I think a lot of people start on the course of learning and doing other people's choreography, being a dancer, and then learning how to show their IP or getting the opportunity to showcase it. So let's start from the other realm.
So I would say, as far as that, the first thing to do is become as big of a nerd of dance as you can become.
I love that.
That's number one, because that's free.
Yes.
That's free. And the volume of material that's available is like astronomical compared to what it was when I was getting on YouTube in 2005, 2006, when I'm some of the first dance videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, you could sit there and watch hours of my videos. Like when I meet people and they're like, where do I watch the videos? I'm like, just type my name in, bro. Like, there's videos.
It exists. Yeah.
There's a lot of videos of me dancing, bro. Like, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's just so much that you can go down so many rabbit holes that are so different in dance. Like, you could go down a crump rabbit hole, and then you're like, even me and Brian, when we were living together, we would have our own rabbit holes that we're going down, where it's like every crump battle that comes out, me and Brian are watching it between classes.
Yeah.
And we were still full on fans of aspects of dance that we weren't well versed in, you know, because it's just like, we're invested into what's happening within that community and interested and intrigued on what are the developments. And, you know, so I think basically getting as looped in as possible to what's prominent and present within the dance community via social media and online content that's available and free, and then immediately plugging in with whoever does dance at the highest level locally. So
hold on, because I think there's something really interesting to start with the sort of research and rabbit holing, because one thing that you're saying is being a nerd is one of the best first steps. And I really like that, because when you're a nerd, you have a lot more questions than other people, because you're not quite satisfied with what you have. But what you realize really quickly when you go down rabbit holes is you don't quite know how to ask the right questions yet. And I think that is actually one of the biggest learning experiences. It's less about getting the information, but more about learning how to get better information.
Totally.
Man, the amount of times I'm like, hip hop move. And it's like, it's a little broad, you know? And then I'm like, oh shoot, I remember there was this like hip hop dictionary thing, right? And then you learn about that and you're like, who are these people?
Exactly.
Oh, okay, this is stretch, got it. And then it goes into like, wait, but I saw the Reebok in another thing.
Exactly.
And it's not that, that's the Cabbage Patch. And you're like, people can be wrong.
It's like how you will find an artist maybe, and then you start going down the rabbit holes of who are the features on this album? And then you're like, whoa, this person has a whole album that I also love.
I love
And then you're like, wait a second. Like, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know, like well-versed in like deep trap music or whatever. Like, and you just know all these characters all of a sudden. It's getting to know the characters, you know? And at the end of the day, because dance is so small, there is, in the dance community, still a lot of gatekeepers.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, which is what holds the dance community together, because it's how you earn props, it's how you earn respect, it's how you earn the ability to do things within the community. Yeah. So it's like finding out who those people are overall, and then locally, so you can start plugging in physically.
Yes.
You know, because it doesn't matter what city you're from, there's someone in that city that loves commercial choreography, and they watch all the YouTube videos, and they have dreams. They want to move to LA, and they want to be a choreographer, and they want to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
So whoever that person is in your city, you start dancing with them, and then do whatever you can locally. And what you'll find also is that because it's locally and it's big fish, small pond, is that all of a sudden, maybe when you finally graduate to moving to LA and getting all these gigs or trying to get all these big commercial gigs, you'll start to actually realize, damn, I really had a lot of power and play in my local community. Like, I was able to go to the local Nike store and perform. And like whatever the random thing is for your community leader that's getting those local gigs, because they're who's hot there, all of a sudden you're getting like a plethora of experiences that you're just thinking, oh, this is just something I'm doing here.
Yeah.
And it's not the big time.
To the big leagues.
And then all of a sudden you get to LA and you're like, dude, I can't even get into the LA Nike store to be a customer. Let alone us doing like a small performance here on a Friday night for like some cool corporate event. Like those things are going to happen in a local regional city that won't happen maybe in LA.
And the impact is so much richer.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
You think LA wants another dancer?
They're throwing you back.
Please, no.
They're like, go home.
I've got a screenplay. Boy, I don't even read now.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There's too much out here.
Exactly. And so it's just like you can kind of squirm and kind of, you know, have a hard time when you first get to LA. So it's very much an experience for people to then start realizing, like, a lot of times people do go back is because they're like, actually I was getting everything I need out of dance just being local, and I could low-key just like get a regular job and just like enjoy dance at as high of a level as I'm doing it locally, and maybe be a community leader back home.
Nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
That is, in fact, one of the best things to do. You are growing roots.
Yes.
And those roots will be fertile. They will help others grow roots as well. That's a really special thing.
And then it also earns the opportunity for people that do go and make it, maybe even from your city, to then come back and continue to build infrastructure locally so your city can keep churning out great dancers and great talent. Because it's just a different, unique path for everybody. And like, the scene has just changed so many times since I've started dancing that it's like you're saying, as the years are going on, I'm just realizing how little you have to subscribe to the paths that people are putting out in front of you. You know, like if I paid attention less to how much was pushed on me as a dancer that I needed to know all of the commercial dance styles in order to get booked on a job, as opposed to fervently pursuing the styles I'm most passionate about, maybe I would have a higher skill level in certain styles I really love today because I might have been a little bit more focused. But at the time, it was made very, very clearly to me as a dancer that if I come to LA and I want to get booked as a dancer on anything, that I must know all commercial styles and foundation styles, which are at the time not considered to be popping, locking, breaking.
Yeah.
All of those styles are not even in the mix.
Sure.
That's like special skills that you come to and do freestyle.
I see.
And those are those people who do that.
Yeah.
So someone like me who's a choreography dancer that can pop, maybe I could stay for the popping audition, but I'm gonna get smoked by Poppin' Pizza and like the people that need this gig because that's their whole skill set. Yeah. And then on the choreography end, it's like I'm learning all these styles, but maybe like 80% of those styles aren't getting used at all in any of these auditions. And I'm just being told and told and told that I need to go to these classes. Yeah. And I kind of did the math for myself when I was going to Monsters. I'm like, okay, I'm going to Monsters of Hip Hop, and there's 5 different choreographers who have all different styles under quote unquote hip hop, which don't all feel like hip hop to me. Yeah. And I'm being told there that I got to know all these, and they're telling me I got to do ballet, jazz, and I'm like, and I've done ballet and jazz for a few years. I'm pretty much like hitting that now. Yep. I'm hitting that glass ceiling of where I hate this style, so I'm not gonna get better out of sheer will. Valid. Like, I've learned the moves. I got the tendu. I got it all. I got my pliés. I got them. Yes. But I'm also realizing in real time, I'm like, I'm sitting in these classes. My parents are spending their money, and I'm just looking at the clock and like almost at a certain point, probably sabotaging how well, like in a sense, self-sabotaging how well I'm really gonna get, because I just hate it.
Yeah.
I just want to be done.
Man.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I just don't want to listen to the lady pluck on the piano and me do the leaps across. I just don't want to do it at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather do the Fresno in the mirror by myself at home for free for another 2 hours than make my parents spend all their money and feel like they're giving me this huge dance education that I'm like, you know?
I think what I'm hearing here is also you're sort of trimming the fat of what you want to be nerdy about.
Exactly.
And I think that's really exciting because it is a very important part of the learning process. You start not knowing a lot. You ask a lot of questions and you think you're interested. Then you meet people who are interested in stuff and you learn together, you build together. Next step, awesome. And then you start trying these things. And then you realize, don't like all of these things I know about. And that is an okay journey to go through. You should go through things like that. Hopefully you don't have to go through so many dollars to experience it.
Exactly.
Because you don't make that much money as a dancer. I mean, especially during the early days, right? And I think that it is really important to start being okay with specializing.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because it's like, all right, let's say your biggest goal is to be a dancer that does my gigs and then eventually maybe be a choreographer. Well, it would make sense to, yes, you're going to have to get some foundation and fundamentals in there. Because I utilize certain foundations and fundamentals. But once you hit your glass ceiling of like, all right, I got the basics of this and I got enough to do Ian's specialized thing and execute it at the top level and being, booked by him on things, it's really a lot of wasted effort to be so mediocre at the other 10 styles when it's like, ooh, these 3 or 4 that Ian uses, I'm also still going to use while I'm pursuing mine. But now I'm going to add in these couple styles over here that Ian doesn't really use. And now I'm going to build my own recipe for my own cake, that I'm going to bake. But it's going to be different.
I will say that that doesn't land in such a strategic and practical way when we're doing it. We've got this 2020 hindsight.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're like, do all this stuff. But you have to imagine you've been dancing for 19 years. I've been dancing for 14, 15 years.
It stumbles to you.
You stumble upon it. And I think it's really important that I'm really hearing you also talk about where you found joy. And it's not easy in the moment to really say, like, oh man, I forgot. I gotta have fun. Like, no, you don't think about that in that moment. No. You're trying to do everything you can to grow in whatever way you can.
I also want to disband it's like a goal of mine to disband the idea within the dance world that there is or isn't a right way. Period. Because then these all right. I talked about him before, Shaq Reed.
Yeah.
He's a dancer that is a raw talent gift. Sometimes the programs that you find yourself in within dance are really discouraging of original creativity. So you can find yourself quite literally potentially dimming your own path and light in order to feel like you're honoring the dance community that you respect and love so much. And I found that happen to me a lot. Whereas I loved the dance community so much that I found I would struggle between 14 and 18 because I'm really into the craft. So I would form very clear artistic opinions privately. And I'd be like, I don't like this choreographer's work. You know what I'm saying? And I would listen to my peers and maybe everybody I talked to was like, they are just the best. Oh my God. Every time I go in their classes. And I'm just like,
some deep voice friends.
Yeah, what was that? Can we go again?
Oh my God. That's what it feels like in my head. I'm just like, really? And not anything against that. I would be shocked to hear how much someone's opinion didn't match with mine, and I would feel pressure to fake acknowledge how dope I thought something was that like I didn't agree with or didn't think was cool. And because it would maybe be supported by the infrastructure within who's important in dance, it would mold me and craft me to not only try and get in and recognized by someone that maybe I'm just not a fit with creatively, but also like shift what I'm doing in order to be more neutral and attractive to those that I might not align with as a creative naturally, you know? So it's finding those opportunities and places, like you said, where you're really like happy. And like, obviously dance isn't just like smiles and laughs the whole time. It is a lot of hard work. But for me personally, when I'm doing something that I'm intrigued by and excited and really want to do, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And there might be it might be more physical work than the thing that you actually hate. But the thing that you hate is going to be like that much worse. Because you're just like, I just don't like this. And then it really confuses dancers in their path, because then they start to not know what to do with hating something that's near, like adjacent to what they want to do. Right? So let's say you're potentially an incredible street style dancer, but all that there is for you in dance education is conventions. And then you're being told you have to learn all these styles. Yeah. Right? Sure, maybe you could pick up on 2-3 of them to utilize within your freestyle, but what if what you're supposed to do is use your voice within the street dance community and push and pioneer via those outside resources that might not be immediately available to you within the traditional path? You know, and so I want to, like I've been saying earlier, I want to curate those pathways and experiences that people can meet dance at different places. I want to throw live events. So it's like some non-dancer that thinks, oh, I'm not a dancer, I could never do that. They just see someone dancing in the circle that's maybe novice or whatever, but then they see, whoa, everybody like cheered them on and like gave them love. And then they're like, oh, maybe I could do that.
Leslie pointing at herself.
And then they start going, not only, wow, that was so cool to see in the dance community, but then they start going, maybe I could be in the dance community. So maybe I'm a freestyler. Maybe, you know? And so when it's just so many experiences of, like I was mentioned earlier, I can only go to a master class in LA and it's a high level class. That's intimidating. Yeah. What if that's not your path in dance? And then sometimes there's a lot of fringe things that dance world needs, which is why we don't have infrastructure at all, that it's important for you to have knowledge within dance, but then move on from physically dancing. A lot of people here at Steezy do that, right? Where it's like they're in the dance world as their career, but they've moved on from physically executing the dance as in the forefront of the content or whatever. And the dance world needs that. So I feel like people need to have more outside the box experiences in dance, so then they personally can recognize an opportunity of like, oh, the dance world needs this type of a person. I can facilitate that because I went to law school or I went to schools of graphic design artists or whatever. And then they can start mishmashing and help build dance up by these other assets that it's like, well, if the dance world, if you take a pool of 3,000 dancers and all 3,000 of them want to be in front of the camera and be the choreographer, it's like, well, you're going to have a problem.
That's why we made this podcast. Yeah. Everyone has such a different story.
Totally.
It's so cool. I think to sort of distill everything we were saying, because we were talking about why, like, if a person wants to be a professional dancer, how do they put themselves into motion, build momentum? But I think one of the coolest things is you basically laid out not a line of a path, but actually a circle that we consistently go through in our journey as a dancer. I'm sure a lot of artists or people of different varying jobs experience. We start by being interested.
Yes.
and become interested enough to start calling yourself a nerd. Ooh, I'm just so pumped. I'm so pumped to talk to the next person about this. Ooh, yes. I can't help it. That's that's like me and cocktails, right? When you guys said that, I was like, cocktails?
Me and coffee.
Yeah, you literally. And coffee, right? And then we feel a limit to the experience. I am experiencing it so much mentally that now it's time to meet people. Yeah. And it's not just me going like, okay, but cocktails. And you're like, no, all of a sudden it's like, oh, yes, this cocktail, this and that. And now we're loving dance together and we're doing it together. And that is, in my opinion, that is the most fun part about dance.
Totally.
However, we are not always able to keep that consistent throughout our life. And that is natural. Maybe you want to turn into a profession. There's a lot of friction when it gets to that point. You maybe sign with an agent. Maybe it's an agent that is less than savory. Maybe it's a wonderful agent, one that really just champions you and wants to make sure that you're able to do what you can do. And all of a sudden, you're working. That's so cool. But what often happens now after we're working after a bit, like you said, you might end up in a position that's almost adjacent to what you actually wanted.
And it really confuses you.
Yes.
It can just become so confusing because you're just like, I worked my whole life to get the opportunity to be in this position where I'm earning off dance, but I'm still not enjoying it. And then comes the ultimate horrible doubt for a super talented, gifted dancer, which is, do I want to do this anymore?
Yeah.
And then that, unfortunately, I hear dancers that are quite literally dancers say all the time that have gone on to do something else, oh, I used to be a dancer. Yeah. Or they don't say I'm still a dancer.
Yeah.
They will say basically they quit dance.
Yeah.
And very often it's because they couldn't find and figure out a way to make their deep passion for this art meet a career or a regular type of experience where they can feel fulfilled in the realm of dance.
And that's why I think it is a circle.
Exactly.
Because at that point, this is much easier said than done, but at that point, it's almost time for you to become a nerd again.
Literally.
It's time for you to be like, all these kids nowadays are doing this dance on TikTok. What is that? Oh, it's a tone wop. What the heck is a tone wop? Oh, it's life feet. Oh, life feet's a style?
Exactly.
That's a thing?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. It's not just a TikTok dance now. Now I'm interested. And that's why, I'm excited. I'm excited personally about TikTok because it's a gateway drug into dance.
Yeah. I love that.
And all of a sudden, when you get reinterested, a lot of your peers have moved on. They've done their other jobs and such. And now
all over again.
You're nerded up.
Start all over again.
I gotta meet up with somebody's, and it's beautiful. It doesn't mean you always land in the position that you want, but the most important thing is that you remembered how you enjoyed dance. It was mostly out of curiosity and a necessity to satiate that curiosity.
Totally.
That's why you met people. It's not because these are the steps. I need to meet a person, and then I need to do this. We need to experience life as fully as possible.
It's your interest. It's your genuine interest. That's exactly what happened to me 2016. Basically, I felt that like I was pursuing dance so evenly until like around 17. And then because I got so much opportunity as a choreographer that was like doing their own style, quote unquote, their own style, and like definitely trailblazing some ideas within dance, it felt like I just went off on this branch, and then this branch was like almost becoming its own tree, and it's like this whole thing over here. And then I went like, okay, now I'm just like sampling myself, and now I'm just like regurgitating myself, and I'm going further and further off in this direction. And I'm like, what's happening with dance over here? And then I basically got back into the freestyle scene because I was like, there's so much lacking within what I'm trying to pull from. I need to become a student all over again so I can have some new things to pull from in my body, in my brain, and then I started getting back in the freestyle where I'm like, oh my God, I love dance.
I remember seeing you at Creatington.
Yeah.
I was always doing like Slim's like battle games and stuff, and I was like, Eastwood?
Yeah,
Chivalry is dead. He's right here.
I love that, bro. Yeah, and I'd be like the only choreographer in a lot of those things, like super often. And then it just like, that was just solidifying my approach. Cause I'm like, well, now this isn't only something that I want to do and need, like feel I need to personally do. I'm like, damn, someone from my part of the community also needs to do this, period. So then it starts to look, you start to realize different angles that you're not seeing when you like humble yourself and take yourself out of it. And you're like, oh, not only is this important for me in dance, but like if I stayed regurgitating my own material for another 3-4 years, what about all those people that I was influencing that are going to think this is all there is, or just get disinterested because it's boring after a while.
Do you play video games?
Occasionally. Okay. It depends.
I don't play too much either, but there's a thing called New Game Plus.
Okay.
A lot of times you finish a video game.
Yeah.
And it's a storyline based one and it's done.
Yeah.
So what they often have is New Game Plus, which is it's the same game, a little harder, with a little bit of extra content sometimes.
Cool.
And when I think about this cycle we just went through,
cool.
When you come back, now you're back in the freestyle game, right? It's New Game Plus. You're experienced.
Totally.
You know the stuff, but there's so much you don't know yet. You didn't fully explore, right?
Totally.
As opposed to you're about to beat the game and sitting and just keep fighting the same monsters and stuff and not actually completing. It's like, don't be afraid to finish it and go back to the start.
Right.
I really like that experience.
Yeah.
I think we got to how do you build momentum? And then we just ended up highlighting an entire dancer's journey until they pass away, basically. That's
till death.
Till death do we dance. Yes. Anyways,
I love that.
I think we should slowly wrap this up.
Yeah.
And I did have one really like interesting question I sent to you ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a left fielder, but it's do you want to have kids?
Oh.
And I'll ask that second part of it after.
Yeah.
Do you want kids?
Bro, of course.
Yeah?
I feel like, for me personally, I just grew up with like the best parents ever. It was just so supportive and just like living proof of basically just encouraging your kid to go about life the way they see most fit. You know, and being open to like new technology and new opportunities and not being too subscribed to like traditional approaches to parenting and things like that. Because honestly, a lot of things that are so trendy and like, you know, status quo of how to raise your kid were things that I grew up with that were super rare for parents to do in the 90s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Being really liberal and open-minded and understanding of all types of people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
And even though that is, like I said, a trend, I guess now, I feel that I can pursue that as a parent, as a father in a way that I think is something I should do in my life because I've just done so much mentoring and I just love nothing more than to see a tiny human look at something, be like genuinely intrigued and interested, and then to learn about that thing and then like become someone who does that thing, you know, and being able to be a support system for all the people I've mentored. And then, definitely my future kids is like something I really, I just would be so happy to see unfold what it would look like to be a teacher 24 hours a day. Because that's the never-ending teaching gig.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
That is.
And so much about my parents teaching art classes and seeing them teach also affected me as a person. And I would just be so interested to see how half of a mini-me would turn out 20, 30 version, you know, or whatever. So yeah,
Man, if you were looking at Sean Liu backing up his car, just imagine.
That's what I'm saying.
When
you know what I'm saying?
One,
like we're gonna have these AI chips. It's like this kid's gonna be backflipping in the metaverse.
Oh, that's how it's gonna work. Like, son, did you watch your hologram today and eat your
exactly, literally, yo.
I love how I don't have to ask a second part of a question because you're in and you answered it. That was great. So
just filled it in on my own.
Are you down for that?
Down.
Leslie said we down.
Check.
Yo.
Checks.
Me and Leslie get all the practice with her little nephews.
Aww.
They're like 2 twins, and like how could you be not? Yeah.
4?
Yeah. They're 4 twins.
You're 5.
8?
No, they're like my little
growing.
buddies. We get all our
Mitosis.
we get all our practice in with them.
Yeah.
And that's our little toddler practice.
Yeah.
And then we get grown adult practice at the studio. Because me and Leslie are very much like LA mom and dad for a lot of the younger
I see.
going into 20s kids.
Yeah.
Well, because I think about it the same way of how I would like to feel in LA. Like when I was coming and staying in LA during summers to do training, I'd stay with Tucker and
Tucker Barkley,
his girl at the time, Kayla.
Yeah.
And they were my LA mom and dad.
Oh.
You know, and it was like a really safe space for both my parents and me to know that I had people that were going to take care of me.
Yeah.
And, you know, not let any harm come to me. And I think, there's something to me and Leslie being in a brick and mortar house.
Brick and mortar.
Okay. Old school house with a door and windows. That's like a place you walk up to and see a couple there, like having a life, you know, like me and Leslie could be watching a movie looking goofy as hell, like in our sandals and like shorts and like tank tops. And everybody's just like going in for a super serious rehearsal. And we're like, how you doing? What's going on? Like, it's been a couple months. Welcome back. What you been up to? Where'd you go? How are your parents? Like, you know, and that's a good safe space to curate in a way that, especially nowadays, there's not as many, because of the pandemic, a lot of those community driven studios are gone.
Yep.
And that's no shade to any of the studios that are still cranking.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of vibe, you know? And so it's kind of cool to have the vibe of like little mom and pop artistic place that these kids can come and just talk to a couple, you know, that's like, we're pursuing our own, you know, life. And that's good to see in LA, period. Because LA is just like, who knows? Who knows what's coming?
He's wild out there. Well,
oh man,
Ian, the curator Eastwood.
Yo, that might replace DJ Icon.
He's getting a new AIM screen name. Gotta go see if that's
Curator 416.
Curator 416
at yahoo.com.
That got it. Wow, I love that.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank
bro.
you for being on the podcast, for opening up, sharing,
Yes, bro.
and thank you, Leslie.
Yeah.
The occasional
Thanks, babe.
chime-ins.
Thanks for coming, babe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be your audience any day.
Oh, babe.
Thank you.
There
Thank
could be
you.
room for 2 chairs.
Yeah.
Next.
Hey, watch out. She's producing stuff now.
Oh,
She's hopping on a project
shoot.
as a
I might just
producer.
slide
She's a
behind.
producer.
Jang, who?
She's a producer on a podcast. Oh, y'all better clickety
More like
clack.
let's leave.
I love that. You make it a thing so that the guest has to bring their own producer.
have to.
It's like, damn, like that's an interesting take. Like,
Tell people that like Ian's so like own producer.
Yeah. Yo,
he's a bougie. Like,
He's exactly how I thought he'd be.
no,
Always
but
trying
bro,
to curate stuff.
literally, I'm dead.
No,
But bro, for real, props to you. Props to Steezy, as I always love to say for you guys. I mean, it's not easy to set any of this up and take the time to do any of it. And, you know, I try and do this same thing with, even if I go to camps or organizers, I'll tell the room like, yo, students, like, thank the organizers. It's not easy. A lot of times this stuff is either just for the love, or sometimes, like, very often costing a lot of the people that are making these things out of their pocket. So I know that none of us listening to your podcast know the prep that you guys have to do. And it's difficult. And I just want to take a second to acknowledge that. And then just whoever's listening, you know, they should know too that it's big shout out to you guys for taking the time. Because we quite literally have to create that infrastructure with dance and those ways to connect with dance outside of a dancer getting up and physically moving their body. And those are the things that's going to keep us around doing what we're doing. So,
Agreed.
Yeah, bro. Congrats on that.
Thank you, Ian.
I love you,
I got to
bro.
say, it's a pretty easy setup. For some reason, I just show up in here and then poof, it's all here. And for some reason, Josh is here too.
I like it, bro.
So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, that is really weird.
Showing
That's
up.
really weird.
Show up at the right time. They'll think I did it.
Yeah.
It's so easy. Like, there's already a camera. It's kind of weird.
I love it, bro.
Thank you, Josh.
We have a great team behind all of this.
Nah, it's beautiful.
It's been amazing.
Come on, bro.
Well, everyone, that's been the Ian Eastwood part 2, part of the Steezy podcast.
Dang, we got a part 2.
We'll see you in the next one.
Love y'all.
Reese's Pieces.
Thanks again for tuning in. Again, this podcast was brought to you by us, Steezy Studio. Be sure to get your dance on today, too. So if you want to get some exercise in, take a Steezy sweat class. If you want to just vibe out and feel good, you definitely need to check out a good groove along. Or if you're up for the challenge, it's time to finally start one of those advanced classes you've been eyeballing. We'll see you in class. This podcast was produced by Josh Jang and edited by Leah Gradonia. The theme song is Tempo by Neiman.